Robert Mueller accuses Paul Manafort of witness tampering, but a former New York City police commissioner who faced his own federal charges says not so fast. Special counsel Robert Mueller, a guy you know I don't trust, is now claiming that Paul Manafort engaged in witness tampering. But others who have gone through the federal prosecution process as defendants are saying this is a common tactic. One of them is a former police commissioner. I'm going to get to that in a moment. This from a Thomson Reuters story. Manafort attempted tamper with potential witnesses, U.S. Special Counsel. Mueller, of course, is investigating possible collusion links that don't exist. Now, Mueller has indicted Manafort in federal courts in Virginia and D.C. He's now claiming that Manafort tampered with witnesses. Let me read you this from the Thomson Reuters story. FBI Special Agent Brock Doman, in a declaration filed with Mueller's motion, said Manafort had attempted to call, text, and send encrypted messages in February to two people from the, quote, Habsburg Group, end quote, a firm he worked with to promote the interests of the Ukraine. The FBI has documents and statements from the two people, as well as telephone records and documents recovered through a search of Manafort's iCloud account showing that Trump's former campaign manager attempted communication while he was out on bail, according to Doman, the FBI agent. The communications were, quote, according to this FBI agent, in an effort to influence their testimony and to otherwise conceal evidence. Now, Mueller urged the judge, Amy Berman Jackson, to promptly hold a hearing to decide whether or not Manafort should remain out on bail, and or if he should be what's called remanded and start serving jail time now, pending trial, so he can't communicate with people. Now, seems straightforward. If you trust Mueller, I don't. So Bernard Kerik, who was the former police commissioner of New York City, I know Bernie Kerik. Bernie Kerik did his own time in federal prison, many people feel unjustly, because he was tapped back after 9/11. He was the police commissioner on 9/11. Prior to that, of NYPD. Prior to that, he'd been the New York City Corrections Commissioner. He ran the jails. And when he was being considered for Homeland Security Secretary, during his background check, certain things pop up that he might have had unscrupulous dealings with contractors, and they unfairly gave him free work on his home due to his role as police commissioner in New York City. That was one of the sets of charges. But many people feel that Kerik was railroaded, that did not rise to criminality. So Kerik tweeted, for those about this, he took a quote tweet of a Fox News report on story I just read you from Thomson Reuters that Mueller is claiming Manafort witness tampered. And Bernie Kerik wrote on Twitter, for those ignorant of DOJ tactics, this maneuver is to scare to death any Manafort friends or supporters that would think of assisting in his defense, and mentally torture him with solitary confinement in order to force him to take a plea and cooperate. Hashtag prosecutorial misconduct. Now, that's a pretty heavy allegation leveled against Mueller, but it seems to make sense. No one said that Manafort isn't allowed to communicate with people while he's out on bail. No one said Manafort can't speak to people that he formerly worked with. That's not a condition of your bail. I've got a friend who I've mentioned, and they won on appeal during Obama's war on wealth. They were an older couple who did very well on Wall Street. They were both sentenced to federal prison for a couple of years, minor white-collar crime issues. An appeals court looked at the way the government acted. It was one of the most scathing rebukes I've ever seen against the government from a federal appeals court, in both vacating and overturning their convictions, dismissing the charges with prejudice, and essentially saying to the government, as a federal court, we're embarrassed at how you acted in this case, to essentially seize millions of dollars of these people's assets for what amounted to a clerical error on one form related to a $150,000 financial transaction. In this case with my friends, the government claimed they were one of the elements. One day I'll do the whole case. Their lawyers are almost ready to have them come on air with me because it's so egregious. In one case, they claimed that a company they were investing into and that the investors in their fund were investing into didn't exist, that it was a Ponzi scheme. This company made a certain type of hardware. My friend's attorneys showed a video of the factory, showed a video of the pieces of hardware on shelves at stores. It showed that the company not only existed, that people were employed there, that they made these items, that that these items were shipped to big box retailers, that they existed. The company was profitable. The investors, by the way, the investors were saying, we love this company. We're making money with this company. We've been to the factory. We see the products at our local hardware store. We have no problem with this. We've gotten our dividend checks. Wanted out of the investment. We got out of the investment. The government didn't care. They maintained this. Even that judge in the trial laughed at the government and essentially told the jury to disregard that entire charge and that entire line of questioning. So I've seen the government act very unscrupulously. I kid you not. The government claimed a company didn't exist that had a factory, was making items, and those items were on store shelves. And like I said, as soon as these friends of mine can go on camera, their lawyer's about to let them. They said about 2 months. I'm going to do a couple of shows with them, and they can walk you through exactly how they were treated by the Obama Department of Justice. It was an absolute travesty. And for no other reason than, I believe, they were very wealthy, very conservative. They were big money Republican donors and very charitable to PACs that fought Hillary and Obama and to veterans causes. Very, very conservative people, very religious people. And the Obama Justice Department went after them as if they were members of the cartel. It was one of the most tragic, disgusting cases I've ever seen as retribution against conservatives. And the overturn of their conviction on appeal proves the government never should have gone after them in the first place. That's a whole other story. But it ties into what Bernie Kerik is saying here. Again, for those ignorant of DOJ tactics, this maneuver is to scare to death any Manafort friends or supporters that would think of assisting in his defense and mentally torture him with solitary confinement in order to force him to take a plea, cooperate. And why it makes sense? Well, Manafort reached out to some old colleagues. Now, the reason I brought up my friends is that while they were out on bail, they could talk to whoever they wanted. I would go to their house all the time. They would throw parties. They would have loads of friends over their house, knowing they were going to federal prison. Thank God it all worked out for them. There's no rule that says you can't speak to people you formerly worked with, that you're friends with. So it does appear that what Mueller is doing is trying to tell everybody who knows Manafort, don't go near him, he's toxic, he's kryptonite. Because if he calls you, even to say, hey, wish your wife a happy birthday, we might see it as witness tampering, and you're going to be in trouble as well. So you isolate Manafort, right? You kill all of his supporters. You terrorize and terrify anybody that might come into court to testify on his behalf. Then you ask the judge to pull his bail, like Kerik says. And when he gets to prison, you put him in. Mueller and Weissman are bad guys. They probably will request that he go to one of the most vile, brutal facilities where his lawyers are going to ask for administrative segregation, where he's going to be locked down 23 hours a day with no contact with anybody. And it's going to mentally mess with the guy. And they're going to say, oh, yeah, we can keep going for years. Take a plea and do 2 years in a minimum security facility where you get fresh air every day. Not the way our system is supposed to work. And I believe that's what Mueller's doing. I profile law enforcement. I defend law enforcement. To me, Mueller is not law enforcement. He's a thug who's drunk on power, abusing what appears to be an unconstitutional appointment. That's not a cop to me. That's not law enforcement. I want to bring you this important content every single day. So help me do that by subscribing to our premium service at www.therebel.media/shows. Go to the App Store, download the Rebel app, and follow us here at The Rebel for the latest on Tommy Robinson's, what I consider, unjust imprisonment in the United Kingdom. As always, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.